Candyman. Can't. Yeah, I'm not gonna say it. He might come out right now and butcher me. Actually, no, it wouldn't work. It's not a mirror. Doesn't work. Sorry, Candyman. You can't get me. Candyman. Technically it's the 2020 remake. It was supposed to come out last year, but the 2021, not remake. That's not the right word. Requel. Reboot sequel to the original Candyman from 1992 that Tony Todd obviously has a titular character. Here we have technically we have several different characters as Candyman. We have oh god, I've actually never had to pronounce this guy's name. Yahya. Is it just Yahya? Do you pronounce the H? Yahya Abdul Mateen II. As you see, the guy you see in the trailer, Michael Hargrove, as Candyman in this. So right out of the gate, what did I think? I actually really like this film a lot. A lot. It's definitely one of the better horror movies of the year, or at least of the ones I've seen. It's one of the better sequels to a horror movie that you'll see in modern era. And I think that's one of the big things. I say requel, there's some reboot elements because they expand the lore of Candyman, but ultimately this is basically the Halloween. They gave Candyman the Halloween treatment, where they basically just did a direct sequel to the original, and it shows that they reference the Tony Todd character. Daniel Robitaille. They reference his character and they bring him up, but they also bring up the fact that the whole idea of how urban legends, change from generation to generation. What Candyman is for one person, one generation of people, he might not have been that for another person. In the case of, believe it's Cohen Domingo, Willem Burke's character, who's the guy you see in the trailer? Candyman, he's not a bee, he's the whole damn hive. For him, it was Sherman, a man known as Sherman Fields, who was his Candyman, and that's the one we follow throughout the movie. They do a really good job, like I said, though, of making this a sequel. But a sequel where you don't have to watch the original, because they give you enough information from the first one in this film so you don't have trouble following it. My girlfriend saw it and she really liked the film as well. But she had never seen the original Candyman. And she followed it perfectly fine. So they do a good job at not... excuse me, sorry, I'm just getting a bit more comfortable. Just let me get a bit more comfortable. They do a good job at basically making this stand on its own, while in fact still being part of the continuity of the original film. And I really appreciate that. The acting was great, particularly our lead. The two main leads, Teyana Paris, who plays our main character's girlfriend, who was Monica Rambeau in the MCU, and I'm going to call him Anthony. His character's name's Anthony, or Tony, which might have been, I want to say maybe that was a nod of Tony Todd, the fact that his name's Anthony and your nickname for Anthony is Tony. I want to say that might have been intentional. But those two, they're carrying the film on their backs pretty much. It is mostly focused on them. Coleman Domingo definitely is part of it, and he has a bigger part to play that you see later in the movie. I am not spoiling anything, by the way, that isn't already in the trailer, because the trailer pretty much shows a decent portion of what you kind of get in the movie. I mean, there's a lot of build-up, but there's stuff I wouldn't obviously include. Or you don't include it in the trailer, but the trailer gives you a good, solid kind of look at the film. No, it's definitely following them, and Tony's character, the character of Tony, Anthony, you sympathize with all of them to some degree, and you sympathize with this guy who's just trying to have his name known, and not be feel irrelevant. He's a struggling artist. And he's doing the best he can, but then he gets critics up his ass and people just, doubting his ability. And there are moments where you find out, this guy isn't as great of a person as you kind of like. There's a darkness in there. There's a scene involving them watching one of the murders, and he basically says, like, they say my name, and they just give him a look like, well, I mean, it's nice to mention. No, obviously it's horrible. It's, like, rightfully so. They all just kind of like, what? But at the same time, his girlfriend isn't. She's not a. No one in this film is a perfect human being. They're all flawed in their own ways. Even like her brother, played by Nathan Stewart, with Nathan Stewart Jarrett, with his boyfriend. He's not perfect either, because he doesn't know when to basically not to shut up. And I will give them credit. That character could have easily become grating very quickly, but he's not in a lot of the movie. And he does at least serve as a grounding anchor of a character to Paris's character. Because he is a very stereotyped gay person. Like, oh, girl, and all this. And like, bitch, don't you dare. It's like, is it showing me ass? Oh, he's the only one I show my ass. Yeah, he better like this ass. Like, it's very stereotype gay, but look, I'm not, there are gay people who are like that. I'm just saying that's when a lot of people who are, what's the best way to put it, not as open about the whole idea of homosexuality, and people think of gay people, that tends to be one of the stereotypes I think of. But for me, he wasn't that annoying. But Paris's character, we see that, she just has to deal with him going crazy. And it really is a tragedy on his part, too. You see in the trailer that he gets stung by the bee, and his hand just keeps, rotting and just being affected. And eventually what's going on with that, I'm not going to spoil. I'm like, okay, I see where they were going with that. But you see how it's affecting her, too. And while, yes, you feel sorry for her, you understand, too, that she's not perfect either, because honestly, and I was watching Brad and Doug talk about it in their review about it, it's like, yeah, everyone in this is kind of stuck up and up their own asses to one degree or other. And I think it's because this movie is very self-aware. It's very self-aware to the point where it doesn't allow for subtlety. It just kind of explains things. It's very focused on, the treatment of African Americans and minorities, to the point where it does seem I want to say it's almost a little heavy-handed on it, not in the sense that it's like, this is a bad thing you're watching. It's like, that's not the right way to say. It's a bad thing you're watching, but you're watching for the right reasons. If you understand what I'm trying to say, it's more that. It doesn't get annoying or preachy. That's the thing. It doesn't get preachy, but it is like, this is bad, and let us tell you why it's bad. There are moments like that. And she definitely, the character of Paris's character definitely falls in there to a certain degree. But they don't just tackle the race issue. They tackle the issue of gentrification and millennials, and talking, then the critics talking about artists and stuff like that. And they don't hold back on it really at all. And while it could have probably been a bit more subtle with it, I do appreciate it for what it's worth. I will say this. I need to be careful, because I am talking about the issue. Not the issue. Well, not the issue. Yeah, it's not issue. I am talking about a topic of race, being a white man watching a Jordan Peele produced movie. And I know Jordan Peele has said, I'm not going to cast a white lead because I've seen that movie. And I'll admit, when I first heard that, that was years ago. When I first heard that, I'm like, really? I understand it, but really? But what if are you writing the rules only for black people or people of color of some kind? But then the more I thought about it, I was like, no, I get it. As a minority, he watched white people. He didn't see enough, representation on that side, so he just decided, no, as long as I'm making movies, I'm going to make sure that people of the other side of the world, or other side of the fence, are getting that representation too, and that's great. Apart from her brother's boyfriend, can we, just because you don't want to make a white person the lead, can you not make, I don't know, it's very hard for me to say it the way I want to say it. Can you not? That's not the right way to say it. Do you have to make every white person, apart from the one character, like completely like evil / a douchebag? Because except for the boyfriend to her brother, he's like the least bad of white people in the movie are still dicks. They're just dicks in like a very pompous way. Like, this is the first movie I've seen, and I didn't see Antebellum. I do know what that movie's twist is. I don't know if I would have liked it, to be frank, based on what I've heard about it. And I've liked Jordan Peele's movies. Let me be very clear. I've liked every one of his movies up until this point that he's either produced or directed. I loved Get Out. I really liked Us. I wasn't a big fan of the last 15 minutes, but I really liked Us, and I really liked this movie. But when you really think about it, it's like, besides the boyfriend of the brother in this movie, there's not a good white person among the bunch. So, I mean, I'm not saying they have to be a main character. They don't. I'm not even saying they have to be a major character. But apart from this guy, this was the first decent white person they saw in these movies. So I'm like, just saying, while trying to enable, a group of people who's been not disenfranchised, that's not the right word, hasn't been given the right opportunities or enough opportunities. You don't have to always make, the other group of people, just terrible, terrible humans every time. Now, man, let's be fair. This is a small sample size of everything Jordan Peele's worked on, and I'm not blaming Jordan Peele for that or anything. It's something I noticed. I'm like, yeah, when you really stop and think about it, and I didn't see Antebellum, but I do know the plot of Antebellum, and yeah, the white people are terrible in that movie. I'm like, yeah, Get Out. The very plot of that movie was that these white socialite white bastards were terrible human beings. I got that. The only white people in Us was that other family, and while they weren't evil, like, the daughters were perfectly fine, but they were killed, and then you get the psychopath versions of them, and then the husband and the wife were really just kind of stuck up, terrible. They hated each other people, so they weren't the best people either. And then you get the snobby critics, the art deal, you get all these people. I don't know. And then obviously you get the cops too. So, I don't know. It's just something that I realized. I'm like, wow, there hasn't been a really decent white person among the bunch, save for that boyfriend. But I digress. I'm not trying to make an issue out of it. It's not an issue. It's just something I noticed. I'm like, well, do they all have to be that way? I mean, and I'm feeling a little attacked now. Not really, but still, it's like, come on, this one doesn't. Fair on both sides. I mean, that's what equality is supposed to be. But anyway, it is what I'm mostly just poking fun at it. It's just something I noticed. But yeah, and then you get obviously Candyman himself. They do a good job, just like they did in the original, of really building up to Candyman, because it really is immersing yourself in this environment, in this world, and this story with these characters. And, building up to the story Candyman. So until the first reveal happens to Candyman, obviously we as the viewers know Candyman is real. But it's, building up to the whole Candyman thing. And I like I said, this movie is very self-aware, because there's two things. Like, when we see his hand getting worse from Bee Sting, at one point I'm like, why doesn't he go to the hospital? And then he's at the hospital, like, the next day I'm like, oh, thank God. But then but then obviously people keep saying Candyman, saying there's the people who get killed in the gallery. There's those girls in the high school. There's another scene that's not in the trailer that involves a flashback. And it's just the question of, why do people keep doing this? And they bring it up too, just like, say Candyman 5 times, and the girlfriend basically just says, yeah, why would anyone want to do that? I'm like, yeah. Why? Because, and my girlfriend's like, well, why does anyone eat hot peanuts or for the hot sauce for the camera to say you survived it? I'm like, yeah, a hot sauce that is still technically organic that you can eat, and maybe 99 times out of 100 it could kill you, or risking a psychotic supernatural entity that, if you say his name 5 times in a mirror, will in fact come and kill you, allegedly. and that if it works, he's going to kill you. So why would you want to test that to begin with? So, and everyone who basically does that is kind of just gets what they deserve, just for like just tempting this bullshit. Uh, but so yeah, and no real spoiler here. Tony Todd is in the movie. Because of the lore they added to Candyman, Tony Todd is in the movie. I will not say when or how he shows up, but when you're watching it and you realize where the scene is playing out and how it's playing out, you realize, okay, this is where he shows up, and sure enough, that's where he shows up. Because the Tony Todd Candyman, the Daniel, I'm not going to try to pronounce it, Robitel, the Daniel Robitel Candyman, the original Candyman, that's not the Candyman we're following throughout the movie. The Candyman we're following throughout the movie is a man by the name of Sherman Fields. And ultimately, allegedly, maybe Anthony McCoy. He's possibly that. You can kind of get the idea of where that it's like Ethan Trails that Candyman's trying to come. He's trying to become Candyman. Or Candyman's trying to take over this body, kind of like a Nightmare on Elm Street 2 style. So yeah, they're the predominant Candyman you get in the film. But Tony Todd is in the film. I won't, again, say how or where he's in the film. But I did appreciate the fact that he did show up. I'm like, yeah, there he is, Tony Todd. Tony Todd's awesome. Can we just say how much we should all love and appreciate Tony Todd? And they did do a little de-aging, obviously, because, I mean, I love Tony Todd, but even I'm like, yeah, he's gotten a bit older. He has gotten, and I just looked up his IMDb. Holy crap, this man's got a lot coming out this year. Anyway, and yeah, like this dude's got actually a really big film history. I really have not seen a lot of his work, surprisingly. I mean, I know him obviously from Candyman, but I think that was really his breakout role. Oh, that's not true. He's in Night of the Living Dead, 1999 remake. But obviously the Voodoo Dawn, whatever that is. Oh, he's in a couple episodes of Star Trek Next Generation. That's cool. And Jake and the Fat Man. But Candyman, that's really where everyone was like, holy crap. And that's when his like career really kind of took off. I mean, he had a decent career up until then. He was getting roles, but that's where Tony Todd really like just kicked off. Yeah, and then I'm sure that, oh, that's right, he's in The Rock. I remember him in The Rock, 100%. Wishmaster, Johnny Valentine. I'm trying to remember where, because I've seen the Wishmaster series. I'm trying to remember where he was in Wishmaster. Sorry, I'm now just going through all like the ones I know. I know he's in the Final Destination films. I know that. Let's see here. A lot of TV. He's actually done a lot of TV work. Scarecrow Slayer, good for that. Let's do Scooby-Doo. He's the voice of a gargoyle. Final Destination 3, Minotaur Hatchet, Strange Kid, Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. Well, look, the man does have a career to him, no doubt about it. And he'll always be known probably as Candyman, let's be honest. But I get the impression he is perfectly fine with that. Like he has no problem being like remembered and like having that thing be like the thing that he gets remembered by. Unlike like Alec Guinness, who was a little, it's like, I don't want Mr. Guy to be remembered for, Obi-Wan. I mean, I was a Shakespearean actor and all that. But yeah, I mean, look, overall, does this film have a couple flaws here or there? Not true flaws. Is this film perfect? No, this film's not perfect. But is the film good? Hell yeah, it's good. It's a really good film. It's actually a very good and pretty faithful sequel, to be frank. So yeah, I do recommend it for anyone who is interested. Definitely, if you're on the fence, I recommend it definitely. But that will do it for the Candyman. Join us tomorrow for What If and Who Would Win. We're still in the week of Who Would Win. And next week it's Shang-Chi, baby. Oh, I'm looking forward to Shang-Chi so much. Until then, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Hit that bell if you want to be notified, and I'll see you later.